Hi everyone, and welcome to the Survey Questionnaire video lecture. In this video, I want to share some tips and organizational techniques for good survey questionnaires. Let's get started. One of the first things you need to think about when creating a survey is the cover letter. A cover letter is the introduction to the research that respondents will read before they choose whether or not to participate. A cover letter can be formatted in a variety of different ways, but there are several key things that you should include in the cover letter. First, you need to identify the purpose of the survey project and give the respondent a short synopsis of the survey questionnaire. Things like how many questions, how long you expect it to take, what the questions will ask about, that sort of thing. Then you want to describe the risks and the benefits of the survey for your respondent. That will make sure that all participants provide you with informed consent when the time comes. You will also want your subjects to know how they will consent, whether they can withdraw from the study, and how they do so. Finally, cover letters should also include the researcher's contact information so they can reach out to you if they have questions or concerns about the survey questionnaire. Once you complete your cover letter, you're going to design your actual survey questionnaire. You need to consider several organizational concerns when creating the questionnaire. Most researchers will cluster the open-ended and the closed-ended questions together within a specific topic. That way it's easier to complete because questions requiring similar responses are close to one another. When you're creating the question order, you need to consider the sensitivity of the question and the recency effect. Sensitivity refers to the level of embarrassment or comfort that the respondent will have when answering the question. For example, if you're creating a survey about sexual assault, you need to be aware of the respondent's feelings and ease into the questions rather than just start with a frank question like, "Hi, welcome to my survey. Have you ever been sexually assaulted?" Recency effect occurs when the question order influences your subsequent answers. For example, I give you a series of questions that ask you about your knowledge of recycling. Things like what substances are recycled, how good is recycling for the planet, that sort of thing. And then at the end of the survey, I ask you whether or not you recycle. Well, you may feel social pressure to say yes, because the questions before have reminded you of the benefits of recycling, and they may make it less socially desirable for you to choose no. So in that case, I would actually ask you about your recycling habits up front and then ask you about the benefits of recycling. That way I'm asking you about your personal habits without biasing you towards saying you have more environmentally friendly habits than you actually do. Where you put your demographics is a debate in the survey world. Some people, including myself, use demographics at the beginning of a survey to kind of ease you into the topic. However, others argue to put all of the demographics at the end of the survey so that if the respondent gets bored or disconnected and they don't finish the survey, they still hit the important topics you're trying to study. There is no right or wrong. It's just a matter of preference. Okay, so here are some more general tips. Keep your questions short and relevant. The longer the question, the more likely that the reader will miss a word and get confused or answer incorrectly. Maintaining a consistent format on the questionnaire also makes it easier for the respondent to keep track of their progress and ensures they complete all of the required questions. If possible, combine questions together. For example, a matrix is a series of closed-ended questions that share the same response categories. The one pictured on this page shows 3 statements, each with 4 options that range from strongly agree to strongly disagree, and they include an undecided option on the right. This type of formatting saves space on the questionnaire and it makes it easier to answer quickly. In a mailed or online survey, it's particularly important to keep the questionnaire readable. This means avoid cluttering the questions too close together and doing something to highlight any contingency questions. The contingency question on the left is highlighted with different colors, making it easy to identify whether or not you should be skipping over the follow-up questions. The contingency question on the right uses directional information, like skip to question 26 to alert the respondent to avoid filling out questions that are not applicable to them. Now I know this is small, so you won't be able to read the specifics, but you can see from this layout is that the questions are organized into 2 separate matrices with a highlighted text box giving the key for each matrix. Readers are provided instructions between each section explaining how they should respond. The 2 questions on the bottom include unique responses, so they're organized separately from the matrixed elements. This survey questionnaire is dense, but still reader-friendly. The last things I want you to think about when creating a survey are recall bias and respondent burden. Recall bias occurs when people don't recall events correctly or completely, so their answers aren't valid. For instance, if you ask a smoker how many cigarettes they've smoked in their lifetime, they're just going to make up a number that sounds big because they're not going to remember every single cigarette. But if you ask a smoker how many cigarettes they've smoked in the last week, maybe even in the last 24 hours, you're more likely to get a valid response because they can't remember every cigarette, or they can remember every cigarette in that shorter time frame. Recall bias is one of the reasons that you'll often see survey questions limited to more recent events, like in the last month, in the last 3 months, in the last year, etc., because you're more likely to recall those time periods more clearly. Respondent burden refers to the burning out of respondents when asked to do too long of a survey. Ever started a customer satisfaction survey that just never seemed to end, right? Every time you clicked, it was another page. Sometimes people get frustrated with the survey, so they either start making up answers to be done or they skip things and they don't complete the survey. Neither one is good for our measurements. So we want to be truthful about the time it takes to complete a survey in the cover letter, and we want to limit the number of questions to as few as possible so that we do not burden the respondent for too long. Respondent burden is why research studies that use longer surveys may include some type of incentive in order to help respondents complete the full survey. You may get a gift card or be entered to win a sweepstakes if you participate, but only if you reach the end. Respondents who are getting something from the survey may also be less likely to burn out because they will anticipate the reward. Financial incentives can be coercive, though, if too incentivizing. So this is something that the IRB will review your study protocols for and the populations you're sampling from to see if the incentives are appropriate to the research technique and your instrument. All right, well, that completes the survey questionnaire lecture. Thanks for watching, everyone.